Hello and welcome back to my channel. If not back, then just welcome. I come to you today looking crusty and very regular because today's video is going to be showing you guys my setup slash makeup collection. Also in this video I'm going to do a little bit of an eyeshadow clean out because I have a lot and it can no longer be displayed in like a cute fun fashion, and so it just looks a little cluttered now. So I feel like that's enough of a preamble. Let's just go ahead and get into this makeup. Okay, so this here is the wall that I film against, and the majority of my makeup collection. I have a few different decorative crates on the wall that I store my makeup in, and then down here is my vanity where I have some more everyday stuff and my makeup brushes. And then if I sweep over here, this is the wall that has all of my eyeshadow palettes on it. So this is my makeup palette wall where all of my decorative eyeshadows go. It's kind of hard to get everything in the shot without standing on my bed. So I just have everything attached to my wall. Oh wait, not that one, so that's a bad example. All of them except for this Basquiat one are attached to my wall with like a Velcro 3M thing, so I can take them on and off easily and use them. Ignore my nail. I have to go get my nails done. I have all of my Juvia's Place palettes over here because the packaging on the Juvia's Place palettes are gorgeous. I have the NYX Earth palette up here, the Fenty Beauty Galaxy palette, Lime Crime Venus 2, the Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette, this ColourPop lip palette here, which is actually super cool. So it's a lipstick palette, but it has a mirror in it and like all of the lippy sticks. And then I have the Kat Von D Alchemist palette over here as well. So that's it for the eyeshadow palette wall. I want to rearrange some stuff. I had this wall set up before I set up my main makeup wall. So eventually I'm going to move everything around and move it from this corner over to this corner, which is closer to my makeup area because it just makes more sense. Alright, and now for the rest of my makeup collection. So all of the crates that I have on my wall I got from Michaels. This first one here, let's just work top down. I have this geode box that also came from Michaels, and inside of it I keep all of my like cream eyeshadows. Well, not all of them. I keep some of my cream eyeshadows. And here I keep all of my eyeshadow primers. In this cubby here I have some of my individual shadows and loose pigments. Over here I have the cream shadows that wouldn't fit in this container here. I just put them in the cubby down there. So far it's just the NYX Vivid Brights collection in there. Here I have all of my square shaped lipsticks. Over here I have my round shaped lipsticks. That's actually an overflow of what's in this container here. These are my other round shaped lipsticks. Most of these are the Bite Beauty multi-sticks. I have my setting sprays right here. And then in this box, my concealers mostly. I think there's maybe like an eyeshadow primer or something buried down in there. Oh yeah, here's the Smashbox, the Smashbox lid primer. I'm probably actually going to get rid of this, so I'm just going to leave that out. So that's all of those things. That's that cubby there. Is my complexion cubby mostly. I have my foundations on the top row here. I keep the ones that I use the most in the front, and then some of the other ones I keep in the back. Then I have these two cups here. This first cup here has all of my lip liners in it, as well as this really nice Burt's Bees tinted lip oil. It's very hydrating. And then over here I have more so eye pencils, eyeliners, mascaras. Then in this cubby here, I have all of my powders. This loose powder here, the Ready Set Go setting powder and warm translucent by Lottie London. If you have, I would probably say tan to dark skin, highly recommend this powder. It's so nice. The quality of it isn't as nice as the Laura Mercier powder, but the color is so much better. Pressed powder, Laura Mercier medium deep powder, regular Laura Mercier powder in a puff. Got the tiny size of the Hourglass powder, and this one is dim light, diffuse light, because they are expensive and I don't use them regularly enough to justify buying the full price or the full sized one. I have my highlighting stuffs in this cubby. I've got my Fenty Honeycomb Trio, and then I have more liquid foundations. It's mostly the Ordinary foundations. If you are interested in a review of these products, let me know. I have the coverage foundations and I have the serum foundation. Got my Fenty gloss in there. Over here I have my non-decorative eyeshadow palette cubby, and as you can see, it runneth over, so I need to go through these palettes and figure out what I want and what I don't. And then down here I have my fragrances. This is the only full-size perfume that I own. That's because I am a rollerball and a sample kind of girl. The only reason why I have a full size of this is because it's, as far as I know, it's discontinued and it was a Christmas present. And then in this box here, I keep my favorite finishing powder. So this is the Black Radiance Soft Focus finishing powder. It's my favorite finishing powder because it captures the undertones of my black skin perfectly. I have it in all 3 shades. 10 out of 10. Do recommend if you are a black person that wears makeup, or if you're a brown person that wears makeup. So on my vanity I have 2 of these acrylic containers with the square holders where I keep all of my liquid lipsticks. Over here I have my more funky colors and offbeat non-everyday colors, my Fenty glosses. Then over here I have it arranged from nudes to vamps to reds. And I have my brushes and just like sundry of different containers. Back here I'm amassing some patches. This isn't really relevant. I'm going to sew these on or iron these onto an army jacket that I have, like an army green jacket that I have. Yeah, my husband just finds these on wish.com and finds ones that relate to me and he buys them for me, and I think that's just really freaking sweet. And then this last container here, there's really no true rhyme or reason to the stuff that I have in here. It's mostly like ColourPop lipsticks, ColourPop ultra blotted lipsticks, ColourPop blotted lipsticks, liquid eyeshadows, random lip balms, Polaroid of my cat because he's cute. And that's my entire makeup. Well, no, it's not, sorry. Down here, I have these 2 boxes. I have my box of Glossier products, and then I have my box of blushes. I'm going to now go through all of those and see what I want to keep and what I don't. So that's my entire makeup collection. Then when I film, since I have my back to my vanity, I just have a collapsible table in front of me and then my tripod in front of that. I don't know if it really came through in the video, but I really do try to think of how I can incorporate my makeup into the decor of my bedroom. However, recently I've gone a little overboard with the eyeshadow palettes, and that cabinet little cubby up there is just full and it looks tacky to me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through all of my eyeshadow palettes and I'm going to give any palettes that I don't use, that I don't want, away. So now I'm going to grab all of my makeup palettes and we're gonna have a little discussion. Oh Lord, hi. So as much as I would like to have the camera pointed down because that would make more sense, there's just a lot here in front of me. Enough talking. Let's get to sorting. So the first palette I have in front of me is Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. It's classic. It's iconic. However, I hardly ever use it. Actually, no, I didn't buy this palette. This palette was a Christmas gift like 3 years ago. And I have used it a handful of times. I have not hit pan on anything. I have barely used this palette. The reason why I asked for this palette was at the time I was going through this intense phase of wanting to use makeup to transform my features so that they look different from what they were. And I saw this video of someone with hooded eyes talking about using matte shadows to transform the shape of your eyes so that they look bigger and all that kind of jazz. I never perfected that technique at all. And also my relationship with makeup is different now. I use makeup because I want to. I don't use it for any particular reason other than I want to. I don't use it to transform anything. I use it to enhance some things, but I use it just because it's fun. It's a nice hobby. With that being said, this isn't necessarily a palette that I go to. This is more about contouring the eye. And even though they have a lot of great base shades in here, a lot of great transition colors in here, most of them translate to the same on my skin tone. But as far as using this on a regular basis, I don't. I can't even tell you the last time I reached for this palette. So it's going to go away. I'm not throwing away any makeup. I also want to clarify that anything that I'm getting rid of, I am donating. Next, this isn't exclusively an eyeshadow palette. This is actually more of a face palette, but it is the Becca Afterglow palette. This was their 2015 holiday release. I went through a phase where I used this heavily, and then I just stopped using it because I started using cream highlighters instead of powder highlighters, and I like cream highlighters so much more than powder highlighters. It's not that there was like any sort of problem with these at all. I just fell out of love with using powder highlighters, and then the only other reason that I was using it was because of this blush here called Wild Honey. But as you can see, these are tiny. These are so small, and it was burdensome to use that tiny palette, that tiny circle for all of this fat cheek here. I am also getting rid. Next up, we have the Viseart Theory palette in the shade Minx 2. This is my baby. It's the one that got me down the trail of the warm copper whatever. I don't use it as often as I used to just because I'm kind of over that whole color scheme, but I absolutely love this palette, keeping it. Next, we have a Buxom palette that I put together myself. And I don't know what I was doing when I put this together. This is what it looks like. What is this? What was I doing? We have 5 shimmers and then a matte. I think most of these shimmers here have duochrome properties, and that's why I put them all together in one palette. And then just like this random warm brown, because the peak of everybody's obsessed with warm brown colors. Even though this isn't a palette that is cohesive where I can make one look, it is a good accent palette. I just have to see how often I use it because I haven't used it since I bought it because I didn't really have anything that I thought that I could pair with it. That has changed since then. So I'm going to keep this, see how much I use it within the next 1 to 3 months. And then if I get more usage out of it, then I will keep it. If I don't, then I will give it away. This next one, I already know that I'm keeping. I just want to show you guys. It's a palette that I kind of sort of put together from ColourPop. So this is their large empty palette. But then inside, I have the 3 sets of shadows that they released recently. Peony for Your Thoughts, Unfinished Business, and Yin to My Yang. So I'm not getting rid of this. I love all 3 of these sets. I love them. I have the first Carly Bible eyeshadow palette. I went through a phase where I used this, and then I stopped just because it's kind of boring. Like, it's not not bad. The quality of the shadows are great. The quality of the shadows are beautiful. But it's just a neutral palette. Like, it's pretty, but there's nothing really to write home about. And the highlighter shades, except for these two here and sometimes this one, looks super ashy on my skin tone. And as pretty as it is and as nice as the quality of the shadows are, I don't get any use out of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it away. Next, I have the Naked Heat palette. I'm kicking myself for buying this palette. I don't hate it, but like the Carly Bible palette, it's boring. It's very one-dimensional. None of these colors are bad. None of these shades are colors that I wish I didn't have, except for Ounce. I'm too dark for Ounce. I don't know what I would ever do with Ounce. But from Chaser down, like, I love all of these colors, but I feel like there's not a lot of variety in this palette. I kind of end up creating the same look no matter what shadows I use. It just always kind of comes out looking the same. It's either copper on the lid, blown out to smoke, or it's like smoky, blown out to copper. Like, there's really not much variance that I can get out of this. Now, with all of that being said, I'm probably going to keep it. It's safe and it's easy. If I just want to like grab a palette and do my makeup really quickly, this is the palette that I'm going to go for because it's a look that I know that I can create almost in my sleep. Next is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. I, like everybody else, bought this when it first came out. Was like, oh my goodness, it's so pretty. I love it. But then I open it and I'm kind of stuck. It's gorgeous. I love all of the colors in here. There's really not anything like it still. It's not exclusively warm. There's some cool tones in here. It's not exclusively copper, orange fire, because there's deep burgundies. With that being said, I just don't reach for it that often. And I don't see that changing. I have a palette that is coming that I'm going to compare to this one. And if I like the other palette more, then I will get rid of this. So it's going in the maybe pile. This is the Bad Habit Beauty Retro Love palette. This is the dupe for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. This palette is the palette that really pushed me and inspired me to start wearing eyeshadow again because of the, I guess due to Anastasia's color pairing, but this brand's affordability, I love it and I'm not getting rid of it. It's one of my favorite palettes, if not my favorite palette at the moment. Next up is the Viseart Dark Matte palette. It's really, really good and I love it for its transitional properties. I was never thinking about getting rid of this. If I'm using an eyeshadow palette and it doesn't have quite what I need, this is always the palette that I go to fill in the blanks. So I'm actually going to do a series of looks, I think with these two palettes in conjunction with each other. I'm keeping this. It's going to be paired with this. So now this one is definitely going in my keep pile. Okay, next is the NYX Perfect Filter palette in Marine Layer. I bought this palette because I wanted to push myself outside of my comfort zone and do a palette that was more cool toned. However, this palette is, for me, a supplementary palette, and the fact that I need other colors to work with it well, and the colors that are in here aren't even colors that I'm in love with. I just bought it because I wanted to do something different and it blew up in my face because I actually don't like this palette. It's just not something that I want in my collection, so I'm gonna just go ahead and give this away. Next, the Lorac Unzipped palette, the first one. This is like the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette in regards to, I like them. I think they're gorgeous. I love the shades. I love the quality of the shadows. It's just not a palette that I reach for all that often. And it's also like the Naked Heat palette in that it's boring and one-dimensional. I can't think of a lot of different looks that I can create with this palette. It's always transition, one of these shimmers as a lid color, and then depth of crease, smoke out, always. And I reach for it less than the Naked Heat palette as far as something that I use on a regular basis. There's a palette coming that could compare to this one, I think. So I don't think I'm going to keep it because I don't use it. but I also don't feel comfortable giving it away in the quality that it's in. So this is also going to go to my mom or my sister. All right. These two. So this one I bought on a whim. When I bought the Makeup Revolution palette, this was a free gift. It's a highlighter palette, an eyeshadow and highlighter palette. If this is a highlighter, if this big white heart, that's a highlighter. That's a lot of chalky, pasty highlight that is never going to go on this brown face. And then the shadows that they have in it, they're pretty, but they're like super like boring. I'm never going to use this, so I'm going to go ahead and give this away as well. I feel like we're almost done. Next, I have this Okalan palette that is a literal exact 100% dupe for the Lime Crime Venus palette. To Lime Crime's credit, even though this is a dupe, so sorry, not sorry. They did this palette before Anastasia did the Modern Renaissance palette, and they have very similar color theory, I believe. Obviously you get more shades in this one, so it's a little bit more diverse and more depth to it, but it's very much along the same lines of this palette here. The reason why I bought this was because I was interested in the Venus palette, but this is $8, whereas the Venus palette is like $35, something like that. I haven't used it that often, but I think that's because it has been just like buried in that giant chunk of palettes. I'm going to keep this one. All right, moving right along. This was the birthday gift from Ulta this year. It's this NYX palette. It's really pretty. It's really simple, really basic. It's a nice everyday palette. When I visited back home in Michigan this past summer, this is the only palette that I took, and I was able to create a nice different look every day that I was there. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep this palette. This palette was not in the cubby, but that's just because of the size of it. But this is the J-Cat Beauty Melrose Avenue palette. This palette is either featured in a video previous to this one or in my next video. Palette I think it's very interesting because of the layout of it. You get 12 mattes, 12 shimmers. The top row all mattes, the bottom row all shimmers, but they are the same colors, just in different finishes. And I think that that's really cool. I want to play with it a little bit more. So I'm going to see how these other shadows perform, and if they don't blow me out of the water, then I'm going to go ahead and give this palette away as well. And then finally, absolute lastly, I have this Okalan palette. It's a gel bounce eyeshadow palette. It's a great like everyday eyeshadow palette. Just a little bit of contour or bronzer or whatever in the crease, and then one of these shades on the lid, and you're good to go. The formula of it is really unique. It's like the ColourPop Super Shock kind of sort of formula, where it's like it's not a powder, but it's not exactly a cream. It gives for like a really nice soft sheen on the eye, which is really pretty for everyday wear, and I'm going to keep it. And here we have my tidied up, toned down version of my eyeshadow cubby. I feel much more at ease now. It looks much, much better. Oh yeah, honorable mention to the Desi and Katie palette that's on a different shelf that I'm not getting rid of because it's bae. I'm gonna start doing my makeup for work every day. So I think we're gonna have a week full of chatty get ready with me's, because I really need to start utilizing some more of this eyeshadow makeup. But there's something about eyeshadow palettes that are my weakness. They're so pretty, and I just feel like I need all of them, even though a lot of them are either replicating or they could be used in exchange for, in place of, whatever. I'm rambling at this point. I'm hungry. I'm tired. My throat is sore from all of the talking. But thank you so very much for watching this video. If you have made it to the end, I appreciate you from the very, very bottom of my heart. Till next time. Bye, guys.